My name is Lauren, and I have a twin sister, Megan. You might think being twins would make us close, but that's not true at all. We were born on the same day, but that's where our similarities end. From the start, it was clear I wasn't what my parents wanted. They had only planned for one baby, and I guess I was the extra one they didn't expect. Megan looked just like our mom, blonde hair and blue eyes. I looked like my dad's side of the family, with dark hair and eyes that reminded everyone of my grandmother, the same grandmother my mom never liked. Grandma's store was my safe place. The moment I walked in, the smell of leather and polish wrapped around me like a warm hug. The sound of heels tapping on the wooden floor was comforting, drowning out the noise of my home life. That store felt more like home than our small apartment ever did. "There's my little businesswoman," Grandma would say, her voice full of warmth as I ran through the door after school. Her face, lined with years of laughter and wisdom, would light up with real happiness. With her, I felt truly wanted, truly seen. I started helping out in the store when I was so small I could barely see over the counter. Grandma would lift me onto a stool so I could watch her work the old cash register. As I got older, I took on more responsibilities. By my teenage years, I knew that store inside and out. Things were different at home. "Lauren, why can't you just wear what your sister's wearing?" Mom would sigh, trying to squeeze me into another frilly pink dress. It looked so cute on Megan. I'd look in the mirror, feeling ridiculous in a rhinestone-covered sweatshirt with a big seal on the front. "I look stupid," I'd mutter. As we grew up, the differences in how they treated us became even clearer. Megan was the perfect princess who could do no wrong. Me? I was just there. "Lauren, you need to work hard and make something of yourself," Dad would say. "Then you can help take care of your sister and us." "But we're the same age," I'd protest. "Why doesn't Megan have to work hard too?" Mom would give me that look, the one that meant I was being difficult again. "Your sister has other talents," she'd say. "You need to focus on being responsible." Responsible? That was just their way of saying, do everything we tell you and don't complain. We lived in a tiny apartment. Dad worked as an insurance agent, and Mom was a shop assistant. Money was always tight, but somehow Megan always got what she wanted: new clothes, the latest gadgets, whatever it was, she had it. The only thing that gave me hope was Grandma's secret stash. Dad's mom had given my parents a lot of money when we were born. It was supposed to be for our college education, both of us. "Remember, Lauren," Grandma had told me once when I was staying at her house, "that money is for you and Megan to go to college. Don't let anyone tell you different." I held on to that promise like a lifeline. It was the one thing that made me feel like I had a future, not just a life of working and taking care of everyone else. As our 17th birthday got closer, I felt a tiny bit of hope. Maybe now that we were older, Mom and Dad would treat us more equally. Maybe they'd finally see me for who I really was, not just Megan's shadow. I was so wrong. The morning of our birthday was bright and clear. Megan was still asleep, probably dreaming about the big party Mom had been planning for weeks. I was already up, my stomach twisting with both excitement and dread. Just as I finished my toast, Dad called me into the living room. His face was serious, and he was holding a small metal box. "Lauren," Dad said in a formal tone, like he was speaking to a stranger, "it's time you learned about responsibility and saving money." He handed me the box. It was heavier than it looked, cold to the touch. A safe deposit key. A heavy feeling settled in my stomach like a rock sinking in deep water. "If you want to go to college, you'll need to earn the money yourself," Mom said, her voice sharp, cold, and without emotion. She placed the small metal box in front of me. I felt like I had been punched. My breath caught in my throat, and for a moment, I couldn't speak. When I finally found my voice, it came out small and shaky. "But what about the money Grandma gave you for our education? Where is it?" The room suddenly felt colder. Mom's eyes narrowed, and Dad looked away, suddenly interested in the wall behind me. There is no money for your education, Lauren, Mom said, her voice sharp like a knife. You'll have to earn it yourself if you want to study. My heart pounded. This can't be real, but Grandma told me. I started, but Mom cut me off before I could finish. Her voice was firm and full of warning. You are not to say a word about this to your grandmother, she snapped, her eyes flashing, making my blood run cold. If you do, I will make sure you never see her again. Do you understand? I swallowed hard and nodded, unable to speak. Grandma was the only person in my life who truly cared about me. The thought of never seeing her again was unbearable. I clenched the small key in my fist so hard that the sharp edges pressed into my palm, but I barely felt the pain. Meanwhile, the apartment buzzed with excitement. Megan's friends filled every corner of the room, laughing and chatting loudly. I stood in the kitchen, feeling invisible. Mom had made it clear I wasn't allowed to invite anyone. This is Megan's night, Lauren, she said. Come on, it's cake time, Dad called, his voice too cheerful, like he was trying to cover up the truth. Dragging my feet, I walked to the living room. Megan sat in front of a giant cake, her face glowing as the candles flickered in front of her. Everyone started singing. She closed her eyes, made a wish, and blew out the candles. The room exploded with cheers and claps. I picked up the knife and quietly cut the cake, handing out slices to Megan's friends. No one even noticed me. Finally, I took a small piece for myself. The frosting was way too sweet, making my stomach twist. Then I noticed Mom and Dad exchanging a look. I knew that look. It meant something big was coming. Megan, honey, we have a surprise for you, Dad said, smiling. Come with us to the parking lot, Mom added, excitement in her voice. Megan jumped up, her eyes wide with anticipation. She practically ran out the door, with Mom and Dad following close behind. 15 minutes later, she came back inside, her face glowing with happiness. She held up a set of car keys, twirling them around her finger. Mom and Dad got me a car, she squealed, her voice full of excitement. Can you believe it? The room erupted in cheers. Her friends ran up to her, laughing, hugging her, and asking to see it. I just stood there, my fingers still gripping the empty plate. They bought Megan a car, and all I got was a key to an empty box. I had the best parents ever, Megan squealed, skipping over to where I sat. She dangled the car keys in front of my face, grinning. So, sis, what did you get me for our birthday? I just stared at her, my mind completely blank. A car. They bought her a car. And what did I get? An empty safe deposit box and a future full of debt. Well? Megan pressed, her smile turning smug. Where's my gift? Something inside me snapped. My absence, I spat, standing up so fast my chair almost fell over. That's my gift to you. Enjoy it. I stormed off to our shared bedroom, ignoring the sudden silence behind me. My hands shook as I grabbed my suitcase and started throwing clothes into it. Lauren, what are you doing? Mom's voice came from the doorway. She sounded more annoyed than concerned. I'm leaving, I said, not looking at her. I'm going to stay with Grandma. I pushed past her, dragging my suitcase behind me. She grabbed my arm, her fingers tightening around my wrist. Remember, she hissed, not a word to your grandmother about the car or the college money, understood? I yanked my arm free and walked out without saying goodbye. No one tried to stop me. The bus ride to Grandma's felt endless. By the time I got there, the sun was setting, and the evening air was cool. Grandma opened the door, her face filled with surprise and concern. Lauren, what are you doing here, sweetheart? I thought you'd be out celebrating with friends. Of course, another lie from Mom. I just wanted to see you, I mumbled, suddenly exhausted. Can I stay here tonight? Of course, honey, she said softly, stepping aside to let me in. That night, As I lay in the quiet comfort of Grandma's guest room, everything from the day swirled in my mind: the safe deposit box, the car, the party. It all felt like a bad dream. I wanted to tell Grandma everything. I wanted to let it all out, but Mom's threat echoed in my head. I couldn't risk losing Grandma. She was all I had left. The next morning, as Grandma bustled around the kitchen making breakfast, an idea started forming in my mind. "Grandma, I was wondering, could I maybe work at your store? Like, for real? And maybe stay here for a while? It's just, things are really noisy at home with Megan and everything." Grandma turned to me, spatula in hand. Her face softened, and a warm smile spread across her lips. "Oh, sweetheart, of course you can," she said. "I'd love to have you around more." Just like that, my life changed. After school, I started working at Grandma's shoe store, learning more about how the business worked. She was patient, teaching me everything from managing inventory to handling difficult customers. Every evening, we closed up the shop together and walked home. Grandma would cook dinner, asking me about my day and actually listening to my answers. For the first time in my life, I felt truly cared for, truly loved. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. I never went home. Honestly, I didn't want to. Mom and Dad never called. They never checked in. It was like I had disappeared from their lives, and they were perfectly fine with it. Grandma insisted on paying me a full salary, saying I had earned it fair and square. I saved every penny I could, watching my bank account slowly grow. But even with Grandma's kindness, college still felt like a distant dream. No matter how much I saved, it was never quite enough. Before I knew it, my 19th birthday came and went. Then high school graduation arrived. I sat in the auditorium, watching as Megan's name was called. Mom and Dad cheered loudly from the crowd, their faces beaming with pride. When my name was called, only Grandma clapped from the back row, her excitement filling the empty space where my parents' love should have been. After the ceremony, I stood and watched as my parents fawned over Megan, taking pictures, handing her gifts, hugging her like she was the greatest thing in the world. They didn't even look at me. It hurt, but at this point, I was almost used to it. "You did good, kiddo," Grandma said, pulling me into a tight hug. "I'm so proud of you." On the drive home, I took a deep breath. My heart pounded as I finally said the words I had been holding in. "Grandma, I think I'm not going to college this year." Grandma frowned in confusion. "But why, sweetheart?" she asked. "I gave your parents money for both you and Megan's tuition," she said. "There should be plenty for you to go." My stomach twisted. Mom's threat echoed in my head. I scrambled for an answer. "I just want to save up more money first," I said, hoping my voice sounded steady. "I want to be able to rent an apartment near campus, pay for my own place, you know? Be more independent." Grandma studied me closely. I held my breath, praying she wouldn't see through my lie. Finally, she nodded. "That's very mature of you, Lauren," she said. "If that's what you want, I'll support you." I exhaled, relieved. So that's what I did. While Megan packed up for college, getting new clothes, dorm supplies, and everything she could ever need, I threw myself into work every day at the store. Grandma taught me something new every day, not just about shoes, but about life, business, and myself. Living with Grandma and working at the shoe store became my new normal. Every morning, I woke up early to help Grandma with breakfast, then headed to the shop. The smell of leather and polish, once my escape, now felt like home. I threw myself into work with more focus than I had ever known. During the day, I helped customers find the perfect pair of shoes, keeping a smile on my face even when dealing with the most difficult ones. In the evenings, after closing the shop, I mopped the floors, rearranged displays, and made sure everything looked perfect for the next day. "You've got a real talent for this, Lauren," Grandma would say, watching as I handled a tricky return or convinced a customer to buy shoe care products. As the months passed, she started teaching me more about the business. I learned how to manage inventory, balance the books, and handle paperwork. It wasn't always easy, but I soaked up every lesson like a sponge. "You know, you could run this place someday," Grandma told me one evening, as we reviewed the monthly accounts. "You have a real business mind, just like your grandfather." Her words filled me with a pride I had never felt before. For the first time in my life, someone saw potential in me. But even as I threw myself into work, my dream of college never faded. Every paycheck I received, I saved almost all of it, only spending what I needed for basic things. It wasn't easy. I'd see girls my age walking past the store with shopping bags, laughing with their friends. I'd watch them try on beautiful shoes that I could afford with my employee discount, but I chose not to buy them. Every time I turned down a night out or a new outfit, I reminded myself of my goal. The year flew by in a blur of shoe boxes, receipts, and saved paychecks. Then one day, I checked my bank account and stared at the number on the screen, hardly believing it. I had done it. I had saved enough for college. With shaking hands, I picked up my phone and dialed a number I hadn't called in a year. After a few rings, Mom answered, her voice surprised. "Hello?" "Hi, Mom," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I just wanted to let you know I've saved enough for college. I'm applying for next semester." There was a long silence. Then Mom spoke. "Why don't you come over? We should talk about this in person." I agreed, a mix of emotions swirling in my stomach. After hanging up, I caught my reflection in the store window. The girl staring back at me wasn't the same one who had run away a year ago. She was stronger, more confident. When I stepped into my old apartment, something felt off. The familiar scent of home was gone. Instead, the air smelled of fresh paint and new furniture. Mom greeted me with a forced smile and quickly ushered me inside. "Lauren, darling, come see what we've done with the place," she chirped, leading me through the living room. Dad followed, nodding as Mom pointed out every new detail: the new couch, the fancy dining set, the expensive decorations. Then we stopped in front of what used to be my bedroom. I froze. The door swung open, revealing a perfectly decorated space straight out of a Pinterest board, but it was clearly designed for one person. "We had a designer come in," Mom gushed, beaming. "Isn't it just perfect for Megan?" I stood there, feeling like a stranger in my own past. "Where's all my stuff?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "My books, my photos, everything I left behind." Mom and Dad exchanged a quick glance. "Oh honey," Mom said, her voice too sweet, too fake. "We had to clear out all that old junk. You understand, right? We needed to make space for fresh energy." I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. Years of memories, pieces of my life, thrown away like trash. I blinked hard, trying to hold back tears. "Why did you ask me to come?" I forced myself to say, keeping my voice steady even though I felt anything but. Mom's smile wavered for a second. "Let's sit down, shall we? I'll make us some tea." Before I knew it, I was sitting on the edge of the couch, a cup of tea in front of me along with a plate of my old favorite cookies. They tasted like dust in my mouth. Mom's voice turned soft, careful. "Lauren, sweetie, we're in a bit of a situation." I didn't say anything. I just waited. "It's about Megan," she hesitated, then continued. "She decided college wasn't for her. She dropped out after a year." I froze. All that money wasted. The money that was supposed to be for both of us. "The thing is," Mom went on, not looking at me, "we need some help. About $30,000 to be exact." I almost choked on my tea. "What?" "But that's most of the money I saved for college." Mom sighed, reaching out to pat my hand. I clenched my fingers into a fist, resisting the urge to pull away. "Lauren, do you really need college?" she asked, her voice dripping with fake sympathy. You're doing so well at Grandma's store and living with her. You don't have many expenses. My mind was spinning. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Mom leaned in slightly, lowering her voice as if she were sharing a secret. Megan needs an apartment. She has a boyfriend now and they want to live together. We thought we could use the money for a down payment on a mortgage. She trailed off, suddenly realizing what she had just admitted. Her eyes darted to Dad, whose face had gone stiff with discomfort. Silence filled the room, thick, heavy, full of unspoken truths. I took a deep breath, bracing myself against the wave of emotions threatening to pull me under. Then I looked her straight in the eyes and said, "No." I stood my ground, my voice steadier than I expected. "No, I won't give you the money." Mom's face changed in an instant. First, she went pale. Then her skin turned red with anger. Her eyes narrowed, filled with fury. "Why don't you sell Megan's car?" I continued. "Or use the money Grandma gave you for my college?" Mom's lips curled as she spat out her next words. Her voice was full of venom. "There's no money left, Lauren." Each word hit me like a punch. "We spent it all on Megan's car, the house renovations, new furniture, clothes, and now the car is totaled. Megan had an accident while drunk. Insurance won't cover it." I felt sick. All that money meant for my future, gone. Thrown away on luxury, carelessness, and Megan's reckless choices. But Mom wasn't done. Her voice suddenly softened, turning sickeningly sweet. "Besides," she said, "girls don't really need college. You should focus on finding a good husband." The casual way she dismissed my dreams, my hard work, my entire future, lit a fire inside me. "What about me?" I asked, my voice shaking with anger and disbelief. "What about what I want?" Mom waved her hand as if swatting away an annoying fly. "We're thinking of you, Lauren. This apartment will be yours after we're gone. Isn't that enough?" I couldn't help it. I laughed a cold, bitter laugh. "I don't want your apartment. I want an education." Mom's face twisted with rage, turning into something almost unrecognizable. She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a low, threatening growl. "You will do as you're told, Lauren. Give us the money now." But something inside me had shifted. The fear that had controlled me for so long cracked, then shattered completely. For the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of her. With a speed that surprised even me, I ducked under her outstretched arm and bolted for the door. Their voices followed me down the stairwell, a storm of threats, curses, and desperate demands. But with each step I took, their words lost power over me. By the time I stepped outside, the cool evening air hit my face, clearing my head like a splash of cold water. My mind was racing. Then, like a bolt of lightning, a thought stopped me in my tracks. Why hadn't I told Grandma about the money? The money she had given my parents for my education. The money they had wasted on Megan. I had been silent out of fear that Mom would follow through on her threat to keep me away from Grandma. But I was 19 now, an adult. They couldn't control me anymore. They couldn't decide who I could or couldn't see. And for the first time in a long time, I knew exactly what I had to do. I stepped into Grandma's house, and before I could stop myself, the words poured out like a broken dam. I told her everything, about the money she had given my parents for Megan and me to go to college, how they had spent it all on Megan, how they made me earn my own way, and then tried to take that from me too. Grandma listened, her face growing darker with every word. When I finally finished, she was silent for a long moment. Her hands clenched tightly in her lap. Then, in a low, furious voice, she muttered, "Those lying manipulative." She took a deep breath and shook her head. "Lauren, I'm so sorry. I should have checked on this years ago." Before I could say anything, she was already on her feet, phone in hand. I watched in awe, and maybe a little fear, as she dialed my parents' number. What happened next was like watching a storm roll in. At first, my parents denied everything. But Grandma was relentless. Her voice grew sharper with every excuse they made, rising higher every time they lied. Finally, they cracked. "How dare you?" I heard Dad shout through the phone. "Lauren, you ungrateful little snitch." Grandma's eyes flashed dangerously. "Don't you dare speak to her like that," she snapped. Then, without another word, she hung up. She turned to me, her expression softening. "Lauren, sweetheart, I promise you this, I will protect your future. You focus on your dreams and let me handle them." The next few weeks flew by as I threw myself into college applications. For the first time in my life, I was chasing my dreams, free from my family's control. It felt unreal. Then, one afternoon, out of nowhere, my phone rang. It was Megan. "Hey sis," she chirped, her voice bright and casual as if nothing had happened between us. "I need a favor. Can you lend me $6,000? I almost choked. "What for?" "There's this amazing online course," she said excitedly. "It teaches women how to seduce rich men. I'm going to land myself a millionaire, get rich quick. I'll pay you back, I promise." I stared at my phone, stunned. "Megan, that's insane and disgusting. I'm not funding that." "Oh, come on," she whined. "Don't be such a..." "I broke up with Patrick and I don't want some boring, ordinary life. I want wealth, luxury." "No," I said firmly. "Absolutely not. Don't call me again for stuff like this." I hung up, feeling a strange mix of pity and disgust. That was the last time I spoke to Megan or my parents. Months passed, and I started college, majoring in business management. Every day felt like a gift, learning, growing, becoming the person I was always meant to be. One weekend, Grandma came to visit. As we sat in my tiny dorm room, she smiled at me, then casually dropped a bombshell. "Your parents had to sell the apartment," she said. "They're drowning in debt, loans they took out for Megan's ridiculous schemes. They showed up at my door asking to move in." My breath caught. "What did you say?" A slow, satisfied smile spread across Grandma's face. "I told them exactly where they could go. I reminded them how they treated you, how they lied to me, and then I told them they are not my problem anymore." I hugged Grandma tightly, my eyes filling with tears. "Thank you, Grandma, for everything. For believing in me, for standing up for me. I don't know where I'd be without you." She held me close, rubbing my back like she had when I was little. As we sat together, a deep sense of peace washed over me. The journey hadn't been easy, and I knew there would still be challenges ahead. But for the first time in my life, I was free. Free from manipulation, free from unfair expectations, free to be myself.